Hello, I'm Don the Crown, and I'm going to go over the New World Open Beta patch notes real quick. So if you're sitting at home or in the office and you're kind of wondering what the changes are, I'm going to go through that extremely quickly. And I basically went through, I took all the notes and I broke them down into different sections and reduced some of them. There's a lot of bug fixes, which I'm not really going to cover in this particular video, but let's go through it real quickly. So first off, something of a big note is that all healing from like life staff has been reduced by 20%. However, armor bonuses from your equipment load will now also affect your healing. So if you're wearing light armor, this 20% reduction will basically not be noticeable at all because, the 20% extra damage from light armor will counteract it. And Amazon themselves said that we want the best healer to be in light gear. And so this pretty much is a direct nerf at the Paladin build, which is basically using heavy armor and a life staff to basically be unkillable to most people. And so I think this is a pretty good change. On top of that, they have also reduced the minimum equip threshold from 15 to 13 for medium, and the heavy armor threshold from 30 to 23. And what this means is that there's going to be a lot less cheesing of equipment loads. So I know I was wearing all heavy armor and a medium hat, and yet it was medium equipment load. And you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You might be able to go like light hat and gloves and boots and then like a heavy body armor to be medium or something. But it's not going to be as effective as it once was, which I think is pretty good. I don't really like the mix and match. I think it's probably just best to pick the type of armor that you want to do and then wear mostly that. Now, Constitution also had its 250 Constitution threshold changed from 80% damage reduction to 60% damage reduction. This is not really that big of a nerf, but from what I understand that there was some sort of bug going on where this was causing people to be completely immune to damage from time to time, and so hopefully that's gone now. Going into the weapon changes, Warhammer had a minor nerf to the hardened steel damage reduction. It's now from 20% down to 15%. And you'll notice that they nerfed several damage reductions from 20% down to 15%. Sword has several changes. The Freeing Justice small node will no longer remove all debuffs. Instead, will only remove a single one. Fortitude has been removed, which was pretty popular, and has been replaced with Invigorating Bulwark, which grants 15 stamina on hit with Shield, Bash, and Rush, and it's not clear whether or not that's going to be per hit or just overall. If it's per hit, I could see this being pretty good. If it's just overall, I don't really see people using that all that much. Leaping Strike now starts faster and goes farther, which is really nice. It's on the the left damaging side of the tree, and so it seems like Sword's getting a little bit of a buff in that regard. The counter attack small node has also been changed from a generic 10% in power for 20 seconds after a block to a stacking 3% for 5-second buff up to a maximum of 15%, which I don't really know if I call this a buff per se. It doesn't last as long, and then you need to block at least 4 times to get basically the same amount of damage you had before, but it does do more damage. So if you're blocking a whole bunch of little hits, you can swing back for more damage. So I guess it's kind of a wash there. Life Staff, now Sacred Protection, grants 5% increased incoming healing for group members instead of 10% maximum HP. Kind of notice that all of the increase the maximum HP of people or yourself, all of those passives have kind of gone away, which I guess they were having some sort of issues with. Orb Protection Fortify has gone from 15% to 10%. And once again, with the changes to how healing is working with light armor, like you'll pretty much need to be in light armor in order to have like the full healing effectiveness. So once again, all healing is being reduced by 20%, but light armor gets 20% more damage and healing. Medium armor gets 10% more damage and healing. So if you want to be in medium armor, you'll only be slightly nerfed, but that's definitely going to be a thing this time around. Hatchet is going to get a couple more nerfs, mostly focusing around Berserk. So Berserk duration has been changed from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. The cooldown has been changed from 15 seconds to 18 seconds. So now you're not going to be running around as fast and healing as much, and you definitely have more of a cooldown. The Berserking Refresh now only heals 10% every 4 seconds while Berserk is active, for a maximum of 30% healed, and previously the max was 35%. Great Axe, the Fortify effect on Gravity Well, has been reduced from 15% to 10%. Enduring Strike damage reduction during a heavy attack is basically going from 20% to 15%. And the second hit of Reap no longer has a stagger, which I honestly didn't even know it had. It wasn't very popular during war times. A lot of people used it in Gravity Well instead. Next, Bow, the Unbreakable Focus Fortify passive has been reduced from 20% damage reduction to 15% damage reduction, kind of in line with all of the other similar passive nodes that we've seen. Next up, Chain perks, which is like the chain on a weapon. Is going from they've reduced the maximum number of times that chain can chain from 5 to only 3, and now chain perks only trigger on light and heavy attacks and have a 2-second cooldown. This is incredibly massive. If you don't know, chain perks were basically a perk where it chains out and does damage to a whole bunch of enemies around, and this was just proccing off all of the time. And if you threw out like a Gravity Well, for example, hit 5 guys, well, those 5 guys would chain all to each other and chain out to other enemies. So you'd basically have like 25 chains going off. And now if you throw out your Gravity Well and hit 5 guys, you're not going to get any chains. And if you swing and hit an enemy, it'll only chain to 3 enemies. So this is kind of a big deal. Chain was a very popular perk in wars, and now it's pretty nerfed, which I think is a kind of a good thing, because I felt like chain was causing a lot of lag with all of those chains going off and figuring out who's in range of them. I'm sure that was definitely causing some lag, and so hopefully this causes a reduction in the like freeze frame lag that we saw sometimes during war. Next up, Empower and Fortify are both now going to be completely clamped at 50% increases, or I guess decrease in Fortify's case. So Empower increases your damage by 50% at max, and then Fortify will decrease the amount of damage that's coming into you at 50% at max, and that's now including potions and other buffs. So it's just completely maxed there. Creature family potions have been basically nerfed. The duration's gone from 5 minutes to 20 seconds, and the number of hits that you can take while these are active has been reduced basically by 5 per level, and the effect of them has been reduced drastically from 20, 35, 50 to 5, 10, 15%, and they now share a cooldown of 2 minutes between all of the potions. These are kind of popular for like doing rift portals and stuff, and these might actually be overly nerfed because I'm not sure if people will really be using these at all. OAKFLESH Bomb and Gemstone Dust have also similarly been nerfed. The duration has been reduced from 5 minutes to 30 seconds, and the number of hits you can take has been changed from 5, 10, 15, 20 to 6, 9, 12, 15. But the effect has been increased from 5, 7, 10, 15 to 10, 17, 25, 35. And so 35% damage reduction for 15 hits for 30 seconds. That could be kind of life-saving in a PvE boss encounter, or life-saving in a small-scale PvP situation. So I could see these still kind of being popular. I know some people were definitely using them during duels and stuff, and so maybe we'll still see these. Healing potions have also kind of been nerfed. They have basically increased the amount of flat healing the potions were doing while reducing the total percentage of your health that was done. And so regeneration potions have also similarly been changed. So they're still going to be pretty good when you're like not super geared out, but if you're rocking like 300 con, you're not going to be healing for like a ton of life every single time you pop these potions. And so I kind of see this as a little bit of a constitution stacking type of nerf. Also, it's going to mean that people just aren't going to be chugging potions as much in PvP, which I guess is kind of a positive thing. In terms of perks, There were 3 different perks that were directly nerfed. Fortified recovery effectiveness has been reduced from 30% to 10%, and likewise keenly fortified and mortal fortification effectiveness has also been reduced, which I'll put up here. And then Amber Gem in the weapon has been reduced for focus users, and so they reduced the damage of this, I believe, by 20%, and so this is going to make the secondary weapon not as powerful for focus users, which I think is pretty good. In the end, our healer was hitting with a great axe with a focus gem in it for almost as hard as I was as a full strength character, which felt kind of weird. Moving on into war, siege turrets have been kind of changed. All siege weapons are now mitigated by armor, and they basically increase the damage of all siege weapons by 20%. Explosive cannons have also been increased by 30%, so I guess it's going to be cannons, lots of cannons. And the repeater fall off now starts off further from 60 meters out to 80 meters out, and the fall off caps at 90% instead of 100%. So this means that repeaters can be a little bit more effective both in war and invasions, and you'll always be doing at least some damage with them as opposed to just shooting a bullet out and nothing happens. Likewise in war, traps on the ground, like in the Inferno traps and the powder kegs that you can place, now have a shared limit of 15 per team in war and invasion. And honestly, that seems really low, especially for invasion. I don't know for you guys, but like in our invasions, we were successful. We had Inferno traps like everywhere on the inside of the base. And so this is definitely going to be a little bit of a change. You have to keep a better eye out for enemies getting flung into the base and trying to blow it up. Definitely a big change. I'm not sure I like the fact that they're reducing them this much. Hopefully they maybe dial this number back up. I think they're looking to reduce the amount of lag that was experienced during wars. And I definitely know that Inferno traps were a little buggy during wars. Moving on into like XP and progression. Town boards have been kind of massively nerfed, and so they reduced the XP for some of the projects. Handing in raw materials will now be, the XP is reduced by 25%, refined materials is reduced by 30%, crafting armaments is reduced by 50%, and handing in provisions, which is like the food, is also reduced by 50%. This is pretty big nerf. I know these were very popular, especially with people who were able to have a lot of materials funneled to them. And I'm not necessarily sad about this, but it is a little bit like maybe bad for the market. I'm glad that they didn't completely nerf these though, like to the ground where nobody had ever used them, because I felt like these type of quests really did help create a floor to the marketplace. Whereas if you were like, I just want to be a gatherer and a crafter, and you can go out and you can like chop trees and make decent money because people are willing to buy the wood, they're willing to buy the hemp and all the other stuff. And so I think that that's still going to be there, just maybe not as aggressively powerful as it was last time. In terms of other progression stuff, the XP required to level at low levels has been reduced a small amount. And so this basically means it's going to be faster for you to hit level 20, I'm guessing, because then they go on to mention that the XP to level from 20 to 30 has been reduced a medium amount. What exactly that amounts to remains to be seen, but I think it'll be pretty easy to hit 30 now. Probably, like I believe like my first stream, we hit almost level 40 or something. Granted, it was like a 30-hour stream, but it'd probably be a lot easier for people to kind of get into the mid game of Eternum now. Now, they also added some more to the main storyline quest. So there's definitely a note here that says they added tier 4 and 5 Azoth staffs to the main story quest, and you're going to need these to close the higher level breaches. And I think that's a really good thing. More main storyline quest. It kind of like cut off in the middle of the closed beta. And so hopefully it's continuing on all the way to the end now, but it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. They also reduced the faction granted per mission for PvP missions in Monarch Bluffs, Cutlass Keys, and Morningdale because they said those too fast of a run back. I'm kind of surprised that they nerfed these ones. I had done the ones in Monarch's Bluff and Morningdale, and honestly, they were like straight shots, but they weren't like super close. I feel like Windsward was very easy to run back and forth as well, and also the ones in like Great Cleave and Shattered as well. They've also improved the spawn rates throughout the world at locations that were bottlenecking players with the same quests and missions, which I think is just totally awesome. Absolutely awesome. Hopefully there'll be a lot less bottlenecking due to a ton of other players being around killing the same stuff that you need to kill. They also have gone and made the end game a lot more difficult. So they've increased the damage and HP for monsters above level 50. So basically everything from level 50 all the way up is now have just globally more damage, more HP. They've also gone out, increased the damage of HP of open world non-boss elites. And from what I understand, this like multiplies with the general damage increase. And they've gone out and increased the HP of elite plus enemies, which they call like corrupted ogres, bears, probably like swordsmen, by 60%, which I think is kind of reasonable. Like if you do like one of the big breach portals where the ogre comes out, like the big Diablo looking dude, he kind of fell over pretty easily. So hopefully this like makes him actually feel kind of tanky. Now on top of all of that, they increased the open world and arena bosses another amount of damage in life, which multiplies against the general increase. And so we're going to see those bosses being a lot more difficult. Like these are the ones that you can farm out, like the kind of the open world dungeons, and the arena bosses like the Spriggan are just going to be a lot more difficult than they were in the closed beta. Now, in terms of rewards, expeditions, the bosses now drop more named items. And so the named items are kind of like the special legendaries that you get from that particular expedition. And so expedition bosses are going to drop more of them now, which I think is pretty great. They also gone out and adjusted some of the named weapons to have better or just more sensical perks. Hopefully some of them make a little bit more sense. Like I'm pretty sure there was a named hatchet that was like strong against angry earth, but then converted the damage into a type that wasn't strong against angry earth. Meanwhile, hatchet is strong against angry earth. It just didn't make any sense. And so hopefully they're going through and fixing up that. They've also gone out and normalized all of the faction weapons and armor. And so all of the factions will have the exact same weapons, exact same armor benefits. And so no longer will like Syndicate have better weapons but worse armor, and then everybody else have better armor but worse weapons. Everybody's getting the same thing. If we understand, it's actually like the better perks on the faction weapons and armor. Now, that comes with a significant nerf to faction gear, and that they're increasing the cost of faction gear, and they're removing the socketed gems from faction gear. They'll still have an empty socket, but the sockets will be empty. So faction gear is going to be a lot weaker and more expensive in some ways, but a little bit more powerful in some other ways. Now at the top end, they are reducing the gear score of the top end gear. So tier 4 gear will now be going from 495 gear score down to 490, which is like an okay nerf. But then the tier 5 gear is going from 550 down to 535. And while this might not seem like that big of a deal, I think this is a great change, seeing how A, they won't have sockets anymore, B, the gear score will be a little bit lower, so it's a lot more likely that you're going to get good gear from crafting or from getting them out of an expedition, and it's just overall pretty good deal. Now, the last but not least, PvP scaling has been reduced, which means that level differences will matter a lot more, and so it'll take more hits from a lower level player to kill a higher level player, and a higher level player will kill a lower level player easier. Whether or not there's going to be a massive change or not, like we'll have to see. It was a little bit strange at level 60, like getting blasted by some like mid-20s guys who were decked out in Amrine gear, but I'm not sure how much of a change this is going to make. And that's pretty much it for the patch notes. Now they have put up a updated server list. Some of the servers from the closed beta have just been removed or changed or renamed or moved to different regions. So definitely want to check that out for yourself. I'll be playing with the same group of people I played with on the Yama server on Syndicate, which was like the Battle for New World peeps. And we're going to be playing over on Eden, playing the Syndicate as well. And, if you want to come by and say hi, please feel free. I hope you guys all have a great journey in Eternum and enjoy this weekend. I'm looking forward to full launch. Have a good one.